Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Now let's take you to Bangladesh. Attack on Hindus and temples continue to surge in Bangladesh amid the ongoing political turmoil. Various Hindu groups in Chittagong and Dhaka have hit the streets protesting against the rising attacks. Protests, in fact, have now erupted in London, where Hindus from different parts of the world living in UK and other minority communities protested in front of the House of the Parliament in solidarity with the Hindus living in Bangladesh. Former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's son Sajid Wazir Joy has said that a possibility of a foreign hand in the ongoing turmoil cannot be denied. In India, Uttar Pradesh's Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath also targeted opposition, saying that they are mum on Bangladesh as the Hindus of Bangladesh are not going to vote for them. Now, CNN News 18's Akanksha Swaroop also spoke to UN Deputy Spokesperson Farhan Haq about the rising attacks on Hindus in Bangladesh and more. Take a look at that conversation as well.
Mr. Farhan Haq, thank you for joining in on CNN News 18. Now, the UN Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, has opposed the racially motivated attacks in Bangladesh. Could you elaborate on the Secretary General's statement?
Well, of course, in all countries, we stand against any attacks against communities based on their race, their religion, or any other discriminatory means. For our part, we want to make sure that there are no racially based attacks and also no incitement to racism. So that is something that we've pursued everywhere the UN operates, and that is the case here. In this case, what we've made clear is that we want a peaceful atmosphere to be restored to Bangladesh as soon as possible. Our Human Rights Office has made clear that those who are responsible for human rights violations must be held accountable. And our Human Rights Office has also offered to help with any investigations or to support any investigations under the current circumstances.
It's interesting that you talked about supporting any kind of investigation, because there have been calls for the UN to be part of an investigation into the recent killings in Bangladesh. Will the UN consider the request only if the interim government approaches, or are you already part of an investigation?
Well, the way the UN operates is we do operate in cooperation with governments. And so if we were to receive any formal request from the government, we would comply with that. But we have made clear, including through the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, that we stand ready to support any of these efforts.
Mr. Haq, protesters have rallied outside the UN headquarters over violence against Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh. Many have questioned UN's delayed response to the racial attacks in Bangladesh. How does UN respond to that?
I think we have been very clear from the outset in calling for a halt to the violence, and we'll continue to do so. Obviously, we want to make sure that what happens now is a peaceful and democratic transition, and we would support that as it goes forward.
Is there any initiative planned by the UN to rehabilitate all those minorities who've been impacted by the riots?
We certainly stand ready to support anyone who has been affected by the violence. Again, this would be in cooperation with any request that we receive, since we deal with governments on the ground when we go about our work. But we've made clear our willingness to support the people and the government of Bangladesh as we go forward.
Mr. Haq, my last question. What are the UN's hopes from the new interim government with Professor Yunus at the helm?
Well, our hope is that as the process of government formation continues, it will be an inclusive one. We want to see that all of the communities and all of the political groups in Bangladesh feel that this is a government that belongs to them.
Well, may peace eventually prevail in Bangladesh. Many thanks to you, Mr. Farhan Haq, for giving us your precious time here at CNN News 18.
I mean, actually, in a way, I welcome it, because these people have been championed by the minority, by the elite, and by the West. I personally believe, having seen the functioning of government and having served as a government, as an honorary advisor to the government, that it is one thing to be appointed to handpick and to be handpicked and appointed to a position. It's a whole other thing to govern, and without political experience, without governance experience, it is very, very difficult to run a country. So I'm actually curious to see how they perform, whether they are even capable of running the country.
Friday in Dhaka, there was a large protest in which you had people calling for more attention to and protection for the Hindu community. But there has been a lot of misinformation as well, and this has been documented. Credible fact checkers have indicated that many of these reports are actually not true. But clearly something is happening. And the problem with misinformation is that it can distract from the fact that there really are bad things happening. So even if there's fake news about what is happening to religious minorities in Bangladesh, we know there are confirmed incidents of attacks and threats. And it's important that misinformation not get in the way of that.
And with that, it's a wrap from our side, but do stay tuned to CNN News 18 as big news and updates continue here on the other side. Thanks for watching so far.